I had 3 rules for working alone in the hospital at night. Never enter the West Wing after midnight, always lock the medication room, and never answer calls from extension 237, because extension 237 was disconnected 5 years ago. So why the hell was it ringing now? The sound echoed through the empty third-floor corridor, breaking the heavy silence that always dominated St. Vincent's Hospital after 11 at night. An old-fashioned metallic ring that made my skin crawl. Ring, 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 insistent, urgent, impossible. My name is Daniel Costa. I'm 32 years old, and I've been a night shift nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital for 3 years. Before that, I worked at 2 other hospitals, always during the day shift. But after the divorce, after needing more money to pay the bills alone, I accepted this job. The night shift differential helped, and so did the solitude. It's a lonely job, but I prefer it that way. Fewer people, less drama, fewer questions about my personal life. Tonight, like every Thursday, I was alone on the 3rd floor. Well, almost alone. Dr. Carla Mendez was on call in the emergency room 2 floors below. Carla was competent, serious, rarely came up to the 3rd floor unless it was absolutely necessary. We had this silent dynamic of mutual respect. She took care of the ER chaos. I took care of the 3rd floor calm. And there was old Augusto, the security guard. Augusto Silva, 58 years old, a veteran of almost 30 years at the hospital. He knew every corner of this building, every story, every urban legend. He was the one who told me about extension 237 on my first day. "Don't answer that phone, kid," he said in that deep, tired voice. Bad things happened in that room. The line was cut, but sometimes things don't stay cut the way they should. I laughed at the time, thought it was just a veteran's story wanting to scare the newbie. But after 3 years here, after nights alone in these corridors, you start to respect the stories. You start to follow the unwritten rules. It was 11:47 p.m. when I heard the first ring. I was in the medication room, organizing the early morning doses. I always do this at 11:30 p.m. I prepare everything in advance for the midnight. 1, 2 a.m. doses. Routine, predictability. The things that keep sanity intact during the night shift. Ring, ring, ring. The sound came from the nurse's station next door. I stopped, the insulin syringe frozen in my hand. I waited. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe it was the regular phone. The main extension. Of course it was the main extension. Ring, 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 louder now. More insistent. I put the syringe back on the tray with slightly trembling hands. I walked slowly through the corridor connecting the 2 rooms, my white Crocs making that rubber-on-linoleum sound that always made me nervous. The fluorescent lights flickered irregularly. We'd needed to change those for months, but maintenance always had higher priorities. The nurse's station was small, a desk with a computer, shelves with paperwork, a whiteboard with the month's schedule, and that beige antique phone with a coiled cord that the administration refused to modernize. "Works perfectly fine," they'd say. "No need to spend on new equipment." The phone vibrated on the desk under the flickering light. I approached slowly, as if it were a venomous snake ready to strike. The digital display, the only modern part of the device, showed in green letters. Extension 237. My throat went dry. The air seemed colder, heavier. Extension 237 was in the West Wing, room 237 to be exact. The wing that was closed 5 years ago for structural renovations that never happened. The wing where no one entered. The wing where Helena Carvalho spent her last hours. Helena. I never knew her personally. She died months before I started working here. But her story was legend in the hospital. A 74-year-old woman, terminal cancer, palliative care. According to official reports, she died peacefully during the night, without pain, without suffering. But Augusto told me the unofficial version one night, during one of our conversations at the coffee station at 3 in the morning. When exhaustion breaks down walls of discretion, she died alone, kid. Alone and scared. They say she tried to call the nurse's station, but nobody answered. The alarms went off, but it was a chaotic night, many emergencies. When someone finally came to check, it was too late. They found her with the phone in her hand, eyes open, looking at the door, as if she was still waiting for help to arrive. 3 days after that night, a mysterious fire started in the West Wing. Electrical problem, they said. But the fire spread too fast, too strangely. Nobody died. The floor was empty for deep cleaning. But the wing was irreparably damaged and since then closed. The phone stopped ringing. The silence that followed was almost worse than the sound. I stood there staring at the device as if it could give me answers. Old wiring, I muttered to myself. Just interference. Old hospitals have these things. No big deal, but my hands were still shaking when I returned to the medication room. I finished preparing the doses at 11:58 p.m. I needed to do the midnight rounds, check on patients, make sure everything was okay. We only had 4 patients admitted tonight on the 3rd floor. A quiet night. Or it should be. Room 304. Mr. Henrique, 65 years old, recovering from gallbladder surgery. Sleeping deeply, snoring lightly. Vital signs stable on the monitor. All normal. Room 309. Mrs. Beatriz, 52 years old, pneumonia. Awake, watching TV quietly. She smiled when I entered. Can't sleep, Mrs. Beatriz? I never can in hospitals, dear. But don't worry, I'm fine. Just watching an old soap opera. I gave her a glass of fresh water, adjusted her pillows. Small gestures of comfort that make all the difference on lonely nights. Room 312. Mrs. Marcia. 78 years old, cardiac monitoring, sleeping, peaceful breathing. Room 315. Young Lucas. 23 years old, appendicitis operated yesterday. Sleeping with headphones, everything normal. Everything quiet. Everything as it should be. At 12:15 a.m., I passed by Augusto's station on the 1st floor. He was sitting in his worn swivel chair, illuminated only by the cell phone light, playing something on his phone. Everything quiet, Augusto. He looked up, and under the bluish light of the screen, I noticed how tired he looked. Older. The shadows under his eyes deeper than normal. Too quiet, kid. Dead night? He laughed at his own bad joke, as he always did. You look pale. Everything okay? Just tired, I lied. He studied me for a moment, that penetrating look of someone who's seen a lot in 30 years. Did you hear anything strange tonight? My heart jumped. Like what? I don't know. Phone ringing, footsteps, doors. This place gets weird after midnight, you know that. I hesitated. Should I tell him about extension 237? Augusto would probably think I was crazy. Or worse, confirm my fears, nothing major. Just the usual. He nodded slowly, but didn't seem convinced. Oh, before I forget, Dr. Carla asked you to come down when you have time. A strange patient arrived. She wants your opinion. Strange how? I don't know the details. She just called about 20 minutes ago, said it was urgent, but not emergent, if that makes sense. Said you'd understand when you saw. Nothing made sense lately. I went down to the emergency room by elevator, which made that annoying metallic noise that all old hospital elevators make. The doors opened to the ground floor corridor, empty, except for the constant hum of medical equipment, and that characteristic smell of disinfectant mixed with something indefinable that all hospitals have. I found Dr. Carla in the observation room, standing before the glass window, staring fixedly at one of the beds. She didn't hear me approach. She was completely absorbed, arms crossed, tense posture. Carla. She turned abruptly, and for a moment I saw something on her face I'd never seen before. Fear. Carla, who had seen everything in 10 years of emergency medicine, who kept calm during the worst crises, was afraid. Daniel, thank God you came. What happened? She looked back at the window, and I followed her gaze to bed 3. A middle-aged man was lying there, staring at the ceiling. Completely still. Too still. Not even his chest rising and falling as it should. But the monitor showed stable vital signs. Who is he? I don't know. No documents, no wallet, no cell phone, nothing. He was found unconscious on the sidewalk in front of the hospital about an hour and a half ago. An Uber driver saw him and called the ambulance. Injuries? None. Not a scratch. Perfect vital signs. Normal glucose, normal pressure. 98% saturation. Neurologically, he's fine. All reflexes present. But Daniel... She paused, her voice getting lower. He doesn't blink. What? Not once since he woke up 40 minutes ago. I timed it. 40 minutes staring at the ceiling without blinking a single time. I felt a chill run up my spine. That's medically impossible, I know. Believe me, I know. But there's more, much more. She handed me a clipboard with papers. The first sheet was the admission form. Name blank, estimated age 45 to 50. Mental state alert but not responsive to complex commands. Turn the page. I turned and froze. It was a drawing, done by hand, with the hospital's cheap blue pen. Trembling but precise lines, a map. A detailed map of the 3rd floor of St. Vincent's Hospital, complete with room numbers, the nurse's station, the medication room, the bathrooms, the fire escape, and a red X marking exactly where room 237 was located. He drew this? Yes, right after waking up, before I said anything, before asking where he was, before I mentioned the hospital's name. He took the clipboard and pen from the desk and drew this in 5 minutes, as if he was copying from a blueprint he had memorized. My mouth was dry. And did he say anything? Carla took a deep breath. Yes, one phrase. He repeated it 3 times, always with the same intonation, like a recording. She's waiting in 237, she's waiting in 237, she's waiting in 237. The world seemed to tilt. The lights grew dimmer. The air heavier. This can't be a coincidence. Do you think it's a coincidence that a stranger shows up at the hospital door, draws a perfect map of our 3rd floor, and specifically mentions the room that's been abandoned for 5 years? The room where Helena Carvalho died. How could he know about Helena? That's the question, isn't it? Carla rubbed her eyes, and I noticed how exhausted she was. There's one more thing. I asked him his name. You know what he said? I didn't want to know, but I needed to. Ask Helena. She knows my name. She's waiting to tell me. We stood in silence for a long moment, looking through the glass at the motionless man who didn't blink. What do you want me to do? I finally asked. Honestly, I don't know. But I thought you should know, because if something strange is happening tonight, if there's any connection to the West Wing, to room 237, she looked me in the eyes. You need to be careful up there. I returned to the 3rd floor in a trance. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of the impossible. A man who doesn't blink. A map he shouldn't know. A name he shouldn't know. The elevator doors opened and I immediately knew something was wrong. All the corridor lights were off. All of them, including the emergency lights that by law should never go off. What the hell? I turned on my cell phone flashlight. The beam of light was pathetic against the absolute darkness, revealing only small trembling circles of the path ahead. The corridor seemed to extend infinitely, the room doors like open black mouths waiting to swallow me. My footsteps echoed, or were they my footsteps? There was something strange about the sound. A delayed echo, as if I stopped abruptly. The sound of footsteps stopped but half a second later, as if someone was following me and needed that extra instant to realize I had stopped. My heart was pounding. Augusto, I called, my voice coming out much more shaky than I wanted. This isn't funny. If it's you trying to scare me, congratulations, you succeeded. Absolute silence. The kind of silence that presses on your eardrums, that makes you hear your own blood running through your veins. I took a deep breath. You're being an idiot, Daniel. It's just a power outage. Go check the generator. Go do your job. I started walking again, faster now. The double footsteps returned, tap, 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 mine and the delayed echo, or whatever it was. I reached the nurse's station. I tried the switch. Nothing. I got my backup flashlight from the drawer. I always kept one there for emergencies. At least now I had 2 light sources. That's when I noticed. The West Wing security door at the end of the corridor was ajar. That door had an electronic lock. It needed an access card and code, even with the wing abandoned. It was security protocol, and it was always locked, but now it was open, and a faint light leaked through the cracks. Everything in me screamed not to go, to call Augusto, to call the police, to run away from that floor, but something stronger pulled me, a need to know, to understand, to confront whatever was happening. I walked toward the door, each step a battle against my instincts. The light leaking out was yellowish, pale, flickering, like candlelight. But how could there be candles there? I pushed the door. It groaned on its hinges, a high-pitched sound that cut through the silence like a blade. The West Wing corridor was from another world. The air was colder, denser, smelled of mold and something else. Something burned. The walls still had that faded and peeling hospital green paint. Crooked frames showing countryside landscapes in dusty frames. An abandoned wheelchair covered in dust leaning against the wall. Old stretchers piled up, obsolete equipment covered with sheets that used to be white. And at the end of the corridor, maybe 20 meters ahead, room 237. The door was open. Light came from inside. Faint, pulsating, almost alive, each step was torture. My feet were heavy. My body wanted to flee, but my legs kept walking as if they had a will of their own. The numbers on the doors accompanied me. 219, 231, 233, 235, and then 237. I stopped at the threshold. My breathing was heavy, fast. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. The room was exactly as it must have been 5 years ago. Hospital bed with yellowed sheets. Dusty, turned-off monitor. Bedside table with an empty water pitcher. Plastic chair. Window with closed curtains. And the phone. The damn phone was off the hook, swinging slightly in the air, as if someone had just dropped it. "Daniel!" The voice came from behind me and I almost screamed. I turned so fast I almost fell. Dr. Carla was standing in the doorway. But something was terribly wrong. Her lab coat was clean, perfectly clean and white. It didn't have the coffee stains it always had. It didn't have her photo ID badge. It didn't have pens in the pocket. And her face. Her face was too pale, eyes too dark. "Carla, how did you—" "I just saw you downstairs. How did you come up so fast?" "Daniel," she said my name like a prayer or a lament. "You don't remember, do you?" "Remember what? What are you talking about?" She took a step forward, entering the room's faint light, and that's when I saw. She was transparent. Not obviously, not like a movie ghost, but there at the edges, in the way light passed through where it shouldn't. I could see the wall through her shoulder. I could see the door through her hand. No. I started backing up, but my back hit the bed. "The accident, Daniel. 5 years ago. You don't remember the accident." "What accident?" "What the hell accident?" "You were on duty that night. Just like me. Just like Augusto. The three of us. And Helena Carvalho was here in room 237, desperately needing help. Memories began invading my mind like a breaking dam. Flashes, fragments, images that shouldn't be there. A night. Alarms ringing. Me running through the corridor. Hands shaking. A pill. I had taken a pill to stay awake. But I was confused. The alarms. So many alarms. False alarms. There were always false alarms. I turned them off. No, I wouldn't do that. You were tired. So tired. Working double shifts to pay divorce bills. You took that pill, that stimulant you got from a colleague. But it left you confused, paranoid. You saw the alarms from room 237 but thought it was a false alarm. You turned them off. Went back to your tasks. More memories, Helena. I could see her face now. Wide eyes, outstretched hand. The phone falling. I wouldn't let someone die. I'm a nurse, I swore. But you did, Daniel. Helena died alone, calling for help that never came. And when you finally came to check 30 minutes later, it was too late. You entered this room and found her. Eyes open, phone in hand. Looking at you. Always looking at you. Tears began streaming down my face. I could remember. God, I could remember everything. I tried to resuscitate her. I tried, but it was too late. And you panicked. Called me in the ER. I came up. Saw the scene. Saw the desperation on your face. And her voice broke. I helped you cover it up. We changed the times in the record. Said she died at 11:30 p.m. before your midnight shift. That she was already cold when you did the rounds. And Augusto was doing rounds on another floor. Didn't hear anything. But when he discovered what we did, when he noticed the inconsistencies in the records, he was furious. He confronted us, threatened to report everything, and then, my voice was a whisper, the fire. The memory hit me like a train. 3 days after Helena's death, the three of us were in the West Wing in the early morning. Augusto forced us to come. You're going to tell me the truth, he said. Here, where she died. You're going to confess, but then it started. The smell of smoke. The flames. They appeared out of nowhere, everywhere at once. It wasn't possible. It wasn't natural. But it was real. We tried to escape. But the door locked. The windows wouldn't open. The smoke thickened, black and suffocating. The heat. The impossible heat. And then nothing, darkness, pain, and waking up again. Always waking up again. We died in that fire, Daniel. Augusto's voice came from the corridor. He entered, also transparent under the flickering light. His security uniform was burned at the edges. His face was tired, so tired 5 years ago. All three, trapped in the West Wing trying to save equipment, trying to put out the fire. The structure gave way. Beams fell. The smoke took us. No, I'm alive. I'm here. I've been working here for 3 years. Working? Augusto gave a bitter laugh. Or reliving. Have you noticed, Daniel? Always the same nights, always Thursday. Always the same patients, always the same routine. Mr. Henrique in 304, Mrs. Beatrice in 309, Mrs. Marcia in 312, young Lucas in 315. The same, always the same. My God, he was right. How had I not noticed? We're trapped. Trapped in this night. The night it all began. The night we condemned Helena. Reliving it over and over. Our punishment. Our prison. I looked at my hands under the flashlight, and for the first time I really saw the burn on my left wrist, the charred edges of my uniform that I always thought was just wear from time, the faint smell of smoke that never went away, that I thought was just from the old hospital. The man in the emergency room, I murmured. Who is he? Carla approached, her eyes full of ancient sadness. Someone who can free us, or condemn us forever. He's a medium. Came to the hospital investigating paranormal activity. We don't know why, but when he passed out at the door, when his consciousness crossed the veil and entered this time loop, he brought a message. Augusto completed, his voice heavy. Helena is here, always has been, watching, waiting, and she gives us a choice. One last choice. The phone on the table started ringing. Ring, ring, ring. The sound pierced the air like needles. If you answer, Carla said softly, each word loaded with years of pain, you'll be able to talk to her, ask for forgiveness, explain, and maybe, just maybe, we can finally rest, finally exit this loop, finally, really die. I completed, or move on, Augusto said, depending on what you believe comes after. And if I don't answer? They looked at each other. Carla replied, then the loop restarts. We'll wake up tomorrow without remembering this conversation, without remembering the truth, and we'll relive everything again, for the 1,000th time, for the 10,000th time, forever. Ring, ring, ring. I looked at the phone. My hand trembled as I approached the table. The device seemed to pulse, alive, hungry. What do I say to her? My voice was weak, broken. The truth, Augusto said, placing a hand on my shoulder, and I could feel it cold as ice. Just the truth. It's all she ever wanted. I extended my hand. My fingers touched the cold receiver. I picked up the phone, brought it to my ear with hands shaking so much I almost dropped it. Hello, static. Loud, shrill, like 1,000 voices whispering at once. Then a voice, weak, distant, but unmistakably real, human, female, old. Daniel, finally. Helena. I could barely pronounce the name. Yes, dear. I've been waiting. Waiting for you to understand. Waiting for you to remember. Waiting for you to be ready. I'm so sorry so much. I didn't mean... I was so tired, so confused, I didn't realize. I swear I thought it was a false alarm. I didn't know. I never wanted you to... I know. The voice was gentle. No anger, no accusation. Just a deep, ancient weariness. All of you carry so much weight. So much regret. But forgiveness doesn't come from me, Daniel. What are you talking about? I already forgave. A long time ago. Even in the moment of death, I understood. You were human. Making human mistakes. Trying to do your best in impossible circumstances. But forgiveness isn't enough. Then what is? You need to forgive yourselves. It's the only way out. The only way to break the cycle. I already left. A long, long time ago. But I stayed here waiting because you got stuck. Not because of me. Not because of divine punishment, but because of your own guilt, because of your own inability to free yourselves. Tears were flowing freely now, falling on the dusty floor. How? How do I forgive myself for letting someone die? By accepting that you're human, that you made a mistake. A terrible mistake, yes, but a mistake. You've carried this long enough, Daniel. All of you have carried it. 5 years reliving the same nightmare. Isn't it enough? When does punishment become enough? The line started crackling, the voice getting more distant. Wait! Helena, what do I do now? You know what to do. It's time, Daniel. Let it go, let everything go. All of you. It's time. The call dropped with a final click. The room began to glow, a different light from before. Not the faint, sickly light, but a warm, golden light that came from everywhere and nowhere. Different from everything I had felt in these 5 years of darkness. I looked at Carla, at Augusto. They were crying too, silent tears running down faces that were no longer completely solid. I forgive you, Carla said to me, her voice breaking. For what happened? For everything. I forgive you, Daniel. I forgive you, Augusto said to her, placing his hand on her shoulder. For making me lie. For putting me in that position. I forgive. They looked at me, waiting. My voice failed. I took a deep breath. I forgive you. For everything. And the words were the hardest I'd ever spoken. I forgive myself. The light intensified, enveloping everything. The room disappeared. The hospital disappeared. There was only light and warmth and a feeling of lightness I hadn't felt in, how long? 5 years? An eternity? I closed my eyes and let go. I woke up gasping, like someone coming up from underwater. My eyes opened abruptly. Bright fluorescent lights. White ceiling. Sound of monitors, beep, beep, beep. I was in a hospital bed. Tubes in my arm. Oxygen cannula in my nose. Pain. So much pain throughout my body as if every muscle had been squeezed. He's waking up. Doctor, a nurse appeared at my side, young, wide-eyed. I didn't know her. Her badge said Nurse Paula Rodriguez. A doctor rushed in, a middle-aged man with glasses. Mr. Daniel Costa. Can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. I squeezed. Weakly, but I squeezed. Good, very good. Mr. Daniel, you suffered an accident. A serious fire at St. Vincent's Hospital. That was 5 years ago. You've been in a coma since then. The words took a moment to penetrate. 5 years? Yes, deep coma. We had lost hope, to be honest. But you came back. You came back to us. My mind was spinning, trying to process. The others. My voice came out hoarse, hurt. Carla, Augusto. The doctor smiled. Dr. Carla Mendez woke up 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. Augusto Silva woke up 23 minutes ago. You three? All at the same moment after 5 years in a coma. It's inexplicable. Miraculous. We're trying to understand what could cause this. My heart started racing. The monitor beside me beeped faster. They were alive. We were all alive, not dead. Never dead, just trapped. Trapped in our own minds. And Helena Carvalho. The words came out before I could stop them. The doctor frowned, consulting a clipboard. The patient who was in room 237 the night of the fire. Let me see. He flipped through papers. Ah, yes. Helena Carvalho, 74 years old. She passed away. But not on the night of the accident, Mr. Costa. She died 3 days before the fire. Of natural causes. She was in palliative care. Terminal cancer in advanced stage, but the alarms. I remember alarms. There were no alarms related to Mrs. Carvalho that night. She passed away peacefully, with her family by her side on Tuesday morning. You're confused. It's completely normal after so long in a coma. Your brain is reorganizing memories. He left to call other specialists. I was alone with my thoughts that spun endlessly. If Helena was already dead. If there was no negligence, then what was all that? What did I live through for 5 years? Was it all guilt? Projection? A shared nightmare between 3 consciousnesses trapped in comas? Or was it something more? I looked around the room. Everything seemed normal, real, solid. I could feel the pain, feel the tubes, feel the roughness of the sheets. Then I saw it. On the bedside table next to the bed, an old photo, dusty, water-stained. With trembling hands, I extended my arm, feeling every muscle protest, and took the photo. It was a team photo from St. Vincent's Hospital, but old, very old. The print quality, the clothes, the hairstyles. 80s, maybe. There was a date in the lower corner, 1987 Team West Wing, and there, among the smiling faces of nurses and doctors from decades ago, 3 people stared at me. A young woman with a white lab coat and pulled back hair, a black man in a security uniform, strong and serious, and a young nurse thin with dark hair, faces I knew. Faces I had seen in the mirror, in the corridor. The nurse's station. Below the photo, written by hand in faded ink. Dr. Carla Mendez, resident. Gusto Silva, security. Daniel Costa, nurse, in memoriam, fire of October 23rd, 1987. May they rest in peace, my breathing. Stopped on 1987. 38 years ago, not 5:38. The eye. Hospital phone on the bedside table started, ringing, with hands that no longer seemed mine. I answered, hello, static? That familiar ancient static, then very distant a voice. But not Helena, it was my own voice, older, tired, but unmistakably mine. Daniel. You think you woke up? You think you're free? But the loop never ends. It just changes form. Guilt never disappears. It just finds new ways to trap you. Who are you? I'm you. 38 years trapped in this cycle. And you're just another iteration, another attempt to escape. But there's no escape, Daniel. There never was. Helena didn't forgive us. Helena never existed the way we thought. We created her. We created the redemption narrative because it was easier than accepting the truth. What truth? That there is no forgiveness. There is no peace. There is only repetition, eternally in different forms, different realities, different versions of the same nightmare. You'll live now. For a few years, you'll think you're cured, that you're free. Till one night, the call dropped. The room door opened. The nurse entered with a professional smile. How are you feeling, Mr. Costa? Need anything? I looked at her badge again. But this time, the letters seemed blurred. Changing. Nurse Paula Rodriguez. It blinked. Nurse Helena Carvalho. It blinked again. Nurse Paula Rodriguez. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then stopped blinking completely. Her smile grew wider. Too wide. Teeth too white in the fluorescent light. Welcome back, Daniel, she whispered, her voice changing, becoming older, hoarser. To your last shift. She turned to leave. And in the reflection of the dark window behind her, I saw not a young nurse, but an old woman in a hospital gown. White hair, empty eyes, and the lights started flickering, once, twice. On the third, they went completely dark. In the darkness, I heard the distant sound of a phone ringing. Ring, 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 from extension 237. And this time, I knew. I would always know. Forever.